Well, as for today, there's some little things I come on here to share, and as you all have probably been informed in the past, I have been taking a lot of old patterns and rearranging them into newer ones where I could kind of take the way they come about and have made some new types of ideas from them and taken them to where I have rearranged some of these animals from a position where they were standing on all fours to a position where they are sitting. And you've seen how I've probably done that with the koala and the kangaroo, but here I'm kind of doing it with a panda. I've already cut out the pieces to make that and got them all right here, and just came on to show a little ways as to how I'm making new demonstrations. There's little things about this we can talk about along the way, but I tell y'all that, well, here's one of those old monkeys that didn't turn out. It's probably going to have to be gotten rid of, but I've just been storing so much up in my drawer for so long, trying to keep places for it all, and we'll see what we've got here that I need to show. It might be, well, it looks like it's another one of those that still kind of need to be put together or something. And when it came down to some of this stuff, I share that there comes a moment when we, and here's another little panda here. Don't know. I've, it's hard to kind of get around to showing everything because I've got so much, but I think we've kind of got a couple little of these. This is kind of like a whole teddy bear thing, and where I've kind of made the body and the head and cut out little pieces for the undersides. And there's a few where I've just kind of cut out the scraps around the lines just to kind of get them ready to be a little more cut out. And there's some things we're going to show as we go along. I mean, I've kind of been making some new pigs, some new possums, some new raccoons, and as for what is here, these are like the pattern pieces I've created to make the new pig. And while we're at it, we can start to kind of cut these out along the lines and just show little demonstrations of how this is worked. I'd like to share as well that there's been a lot of things that it's come down to, and to the point where I'm trying to narrow these pattern pieces down as much as I can to maybe only being, I'd say, like, to be exact, maybe, 4 or 6 pieces per pattern, just to try to make it a little less work so I don't have to charge people so much. And, it's kind of like how people tend to probably be more likely to want these things for toys for children, and that's kind of one of those things where you can't charge too much or pay too much for a piece of art just to have it for a kid to play with. So we're trying to make things a little narrower, and just like how it was with the other pigs that I carved from the previous pattern, I am using genes that have really bad unwashable stains in them to kind of make it look like the pigs are kind of dirty. That's how I sort of repurpose the material, or better yet, I figured out something. This is actually my possum. Now that I come down to it with the tail, that's what that is. But even with the older pattern, that was the way I made possums too. Was out of the dirty old jeans because knowing the kind of creatures people consider opossums to be, I decided that would be the little neat way to go about it, and one more way to make use of such material as I had, because there gets to be times when I'll get online and play some of those vintage games and notice all the interesting things about how they do all the animals on those old games, or how they did them at the time when the games were being made. Some of these things I probably played on a little, temporarily that is, on a little Nintendo NES system when I was a kid. My brother played with that a whole lot more than I did, and so did his friends, and so did our house guests. But it was just the kind of thing where I didn't deal with it all that much, never had much interest in it for long. Kind of got tired of it after a while, but then there's some who, will play video games longer. Sometimes these days I can get on websites online such as Old Game Shelf on my computer and still be able to play some of those games. I've got some devices in my that they'd be harder to play them on, but I get used to doing it with computers and all because that's kind of the place where I enjoy things the most. And I'll tell you all, this is the little front end of the opossum, so we'll probably explain in a future video when we go to sew things up just exactly how some of this stuff works, as far as just the way that you see the head on one side and the arms and legs on the other side, to make it so we can sew it up in a way that little less work can be involved, fewer pieces can be used, and I'll have a chance to demonstrate that sometime. Sometimes I even love to kind of be in those coffee shops sewing things, but it's been one of those times when, of course, I could kind of take my stuff into McLeod's coffee shop in the afternoons on the way home from work, but sometimes I get a little bit tired from the work day and kind of want to relax while I'm in there. Maybe there will be friends and people in there who might be there that I'll talk to, and sometimes might even talk to them instead. And on Thursdays, there's a group that comes in there to play games. So if I feel in the mood to play any games, or if it's any game that I want to play, I might even, get involved a little bit, but never been that much type of a person to play that many board games myself. Growing up, I didn't really like to lose at them, so I didn't really play them much. And I say that these little things, as far as just what we work about in life, I say, oh, a lot of joy in our work comes a longer way. And I'd say there's going to be other little things to cut out here. We're going to get around to that soon. I'd say that sometimes I might get on and just have little random things to talk about. That might be the reason I do this. I've been grateful, by the way, for all the more followers I've been receiving on Facebook and Instagram. Would be nice to get more subscribers on this YouTube. If you're watching this video, it would help if you would click the subscribe button, because I would be interested in having some more subscribers. and probably whenever I get more of them, hopefully there will be some new motivation to come in the next year. I'd say I'm hoping I might be able to get a new intro for some of my videos. Some of what I've watched online has really helped me come up with more ideas for that. We'll see what this one is, and turns out this one is a pig. Like I was saying, we kind of got the pieces here made out of some dirty jeans, and this is where we're going to kind of sew along on this, buddy. These days, it's hard to be out in places so much. I tell y'all that it's just coming to the point where I get a little older sometimes. Sometimes I tell y'all that I might like to save a little money just to try to make advertisements online. Sometimes I feel like if I get more advertisements, that might kind of make it where I can be able to get a little more promotion to my business, maybe get more people interested in my products. Always enjoy just kind of having people come to look, even if there's not necessarily anything they would think about buying. I've just always thought about how there's just been a lot of viewers and members on my page who have come about to see different things, share different things. Oh, and I say that what a wonderful world we live in. Oh, the thing Louis Armstrong sang about. And the thing I even remember there being a certain old commercial where Willie Nelson sang that song, and at the end of the song they said, if you're not recycling, you're throwing it all away. That's one particular reason why I try to recycle as much as I can, take these old jeans and make new little creatures out of them. And I think recycled material can be a great thing. We finally got a piece to the pig cut out here, and we're gonna work along this as well, take one little step further. Probably by the end of this video I'm going to have some laundry that probably needs to come out of the washer and go into the dryer, because I've just been washing it up there, and probably going to be time to move it to the dryer so we can kind of get that taken care of. And you know, we probably have some more loads to do, but I decided I'd take this little moment just to come on, do a video for you all. It is, after all, my fall break from work, and it's Tuesday, and it's the second day of my fall break, and these days in the school system, we kind of get a whole week for that, so I decided to try to spend my fall break kind of putting a little extra work towards my business, because I feel that would be a little essential thing to work about and take it where we need a little ways to go. Sometimes, just sometimes, I tell y'all that I get into the workplace during the week, I just hear all kinds of stories, and sometimes I tell y'all little stories, you know, they might have even taken place before I was there. But, you know, we just kind of learn about people, and I'd say personalities can be a little different in places, and for how people are and what they do and how they do. And I'd say that this is the work that I'm going to enjoy a long time. I could always hope that some of this work I do could become another legacy and take it all further. And as you all have probably seen in videos in the past, I call these things Winnie pets. I named them after my niece. And there's been interesting things happen at shows where I've had them out with that little tag and name on them. One lady came by, mentioned that her name was Gwen, and thought the little stuffy was named after her, and I said to her, well, that's also my niece's name. They're named after my niece. So, this is just the way that we come along here. I tell you all this for me, probably not the most patient uncle in the world. I'm not a perfect uncle, but I say one thing for sure, She doesn't know me as well as she knows her mommy and daddy and her granny and grandpa, but she knows who I am. She doesn't forget who I am. I mean, I tell you, as you learn a little more in life, you come to realize that of all things we work at and do, it's just a little show where she's probably going to realize something the older she gets. She's probably going to realize Uncle Jonathan didn't always have time, but that he still thought about her and wanted to do things for her. So that's how it's going to come along. There's going to come the day when she's going to get older and see her name on a product and probably be able to appreciate it a little more. I'm hoping it's all going to go well for her in school. Wouldn't want any kids to be bullying her over that name, and or even the fact that it's on her uncle's product, but that's just the kind of thing where we just work our way about life, and that little thing I say. It's a lot of things she's really too young to understand or comprehend, but she's going to learn them all in time and learn them all as she's older. She calls me Uncle Jonathan, by the way. She knows my name, and she calls me Uncle because it's what her parents taught her, but probably not to the age yet where she really understands what an uncle is, that it's and that sometimes just because I'm her dad's brother, she's going to learn as she gets older that's what makes me her Uncle Jonathan. It's going to be things that make little life go, and see how we brave and weather the storms. Oh, I say that she's going to be a precious soul. There's no telling what she's going to compete in as she gets older. Could be anything, anything to us. It could be that she might be a wonderful little world changer of some sort. When she makes the world better for us all, we're all going to see a little light in her. You know, there's been things I've done to try to better the world all around me, and I tell you, these days we have advocates for autism. That was something I did for many years. I kind of wrote my tracts and shared them in places, and these days, whenever it comes to work and to jobs, there gets to be those little moments I might have to advocate for myself now and then. Y'all may even have heard that the dish machine has been down at my work, and we've got people coming in to work on it. I say that as for this little job, I say we've kind of got a possum cut out and a pig cut out, and I think we've probably just got one more little pattern to demonstrate how we cut, and then it might be time that we can start to end the video here. And as for me, I enjoy these breaks in my life. There comes a time, like this is the little raccoon, you see this the point at the front of its head, and we kind of expanded the ear a little bit and decided to do that because, we would like to use a little more denim and a little less felt, so decided it would be good just to try to put that extra work into the piece to make it so it would be a little better tool to seeing us and finding us. And the work is just going to be grand. Make it so we're going to see what this is going to turn out to be. And I say there's probably been enough creatures I've made. It's probably been mostly mammal creatures, but I've kind of tried to make a few roosters out of denim and felt before. I've made some turkeys before. I've made some plant matters like pumpkins before, and all that stuff. The turkeys and the pumpkins are now on Etsy just to kind of show people a little bit more work as to what I can do and how I can do it. And there's going to be a long winter to come in which we're going to have a lot of work coming through in our hands. And I say brighter worlds, brighter places, brighter days. And I say that we apparently seem to be, well, I'd say no, not that many pieces, because there's some pieces of the pattern there's two of, and some there's only one of. I mean, parts of the face are things that we only have to cut out one of per thing. And I'll tell y'all that there's a few of these pieces I've had to edit even after I cut them out, because I decided in places to make the forehead a little bigger and the little mask over the eyes a little smaller so that we could have a little bit more room to stretch out the ear, to put a little work in the raccoon and see how it goes. I mean, there's probably going to be more creatures to come over time where I'm probably going to do a little more, but there are certain ones I kind of have down at the artisan market in Frankfurt because they may not be the best seller at a lot of shows, but I always just kind of have to take my chances in business. And sometimes if you want to succeed eventually, there's little chances you have to take. I tell y'all that there's things I like to use my money to buy, and things that interest me and things not so much, but with all I have in my little money that I save, I could say that there's probably going to be a lot to come, a lot of work and lots to share. And even to that matter, I'd say purchase myself a few little taxidermy pieces online that I like to have up in my bedroom. The ways I keep all those exotic animals there. And this is one where you can see that the lower part of the face was attached to the underside. That is one thing we did to kind of make it so there would be less pieces to have to sew together. And that is how we're working about this and how it's going to come out for good. I say that work is just one of those things where we bind ourselves to find little time and work and what we do. I say, bless the world, bless children indeed. I say, sometimes, just sometimes, there's been a little stubbornness in my life, things I struggled with too much, and we kind of learn little things as we go along, and so much we do. I say, there comes a time in my life I had my own little stubborn ways and learned little things that, you know, that come by experience, all the things I hear and say, that they say, people will listen if you take advice, but sometimes, just sometimes, there comes a little moment in life where, people might even tell you, if you're not going to take their advice, that there's some things you kind of got to stop complaining about. And then I say that little work cometh, make us all see bright lights in our days and storms in our nights. Think one of these days I'm going to take some of these patterns and perhaps even, I'd say, make out the little cat with them. I did also make a little cat that kind of sits upright instead of the one that crawls on all fours with its head to the side like the one you've seen before. And as you see here, this is where we've kind of stretched out the forehead and the ears a little bit. The ears were always attached to the forehead, but like I said, this has become a moment we've decided to expand the ears a little bit because it could be hard to make little ears through that thick denim, and so we kind of want to have a little bit bigger ears that are going to be easier to turn out once it gets completely sewn up. And I say that this is just one of those ways that we work about our days, work about what we do. And one more thing I have to show is how we have sort of also shortened the little mask. One thing I'll tell you all is that there's been a few little additions I've had to make to this. After I had already kind of drawn this out and traced it onto the pattern, that was when I kind of like expanded the ears and expanded the forehead a little bit. So that is kind of the reason why you'll see that I sort of had to shorten down the mask a little bit after it was already done. So there's kind of some inner lines to take with that and to show what we've come down to, and little time and work in all our ways. I say this is just how my little work of art comes and goes, and we know that kids love these toys and they love them in ways. Sometimes even grown-ups love them too, and it's like sometimes you have to charge for the extra work when it comes to a piece of art, but I've been having to throw away a lot of old scraps of jeans lately, even some scraps of denim shirt and things like that, because a lot of it is just going to waste on all these trial and error pieces. So we had to kind of rid ourselves of it in a way and see where it was going to take us next, and probably I'd say brought us quite a mighty long way. And as for what we've got to go in life, I tell y'all that we've got 3 little sets that haven't been cut yet, but we're going to set them aside. These pieces that have already been cut, we're going to put back in the bag. And now we're going to close the video so I can go up and check my laundry, see if it's done. I appreciate you all coming on and watching. If you think about it, please hit the subscribe button and subscribe to my videos. I'd like to have more followers so I can kind of expand this channel a little more and do a little more stuff, maybe even some lives sometime. Thanks again, and take care, and God bless.